What's up, YouTube? My name's Terrence, and welcome to Comic Break 98, where I'm going to break down your favorite Marvel and DC comic book storylines. For all of you guys, it's been a pleasure. Now, it's my first video on YouTube, so you guys are going to have to give me a bit of patience as I try to, get everything up and running and all that stuff. But I'm not going to waste any time. We'll jump right into Jim Starlin's Infinity Gauntlet with issue number 1, God. Let's get to it, guys. Alright, so a little bit of exposition. This story basically picks up after the events of Thanos' quest, and that was also written by Jim Starlin, but that was basically chronicling Thanos when he was acquiring the 6 Infinity Stones. They were called the Soul Stones back then, but this basically picks up from then, so yeah. Also, just so you guys know, I do plan on covering Thanos' quest, so just in case you guys are wondering. Alright, so I got a cold, so bear with me. But we basically pick up on a barren moon. It's not really specified where, but we see somebody on Thanos' nuts, like just telling him anything that he wishes to be, it can happen. Nothing can challenge his role in godhood, and the only thing that can describe him is that he is a god. And we see that this is, in fact, Mephisto. And if you guys don't know who Mephisto is, if you know who Ghost Rider is, the superhero with the flaming skull, he's basically the guy that gave him his powers, basically the devil of the Marvel universe. And yeah, but that's another story for another day. In this story though, Mephisto is basically Thanos' right hand man. Rob would probably say something like this: it's better to be in the devil's right hand than be in his path. And I get it. So he's basically like Thanos' personal advisor, or I'd say his freaking personal cheerleader. But yeah, Mephisto basically asked Thanos if there's anything that he can do to serve him, and Thanos says he basically told Mephisto to shut up, and he was saying that like the moment is upon them when the stars come to realize the truth of his words. And like as he was saying this, he destroyed that big old like rock thing that he made that said God, and he just basically declared that he demands a seat at the cosmic table. So the story basically picks up with Doctor Strange at his Sanctum Sanctorum in New York City, and we see that he's basically having a normal day. Him and Wong are just chilling, hanging out, and he's reviewing his mystical arts. And we see that there's a crash somewhere in the sanctum, and at first Doctor Strange believes that it's an intruder, but when he gets to the place where the commotion had occurred, he finds the Silver Surfer crashed there, and it looks like he had been in some type of major conflict, because he's like mumbling, saying Strange, he must reach Strange. And Doctor Strange tells him that he has, found where he is trying to get to Stephen Strange. And the Surfer tells Doctor Strange that he has come to warn him, and when Doctor Strange asks him, what are you coming to warn him about? The Silver Surfer replies and says that there is a great danger coming this way, that it must be stopped. And when Doctor Strange asks who or what, Silver Surfer replies and said that his arrival could herald the end of the universe, and he tells Doctor Strange that Thanos is coming. And Silver Surfer, he seeks to tell Doctor Strange what Thanos had been up to since then, and this is more exposition for the readers as well. And he tells him that even though he may have thought Thanos had been dead, because if you guys don't know, Thanos had died previously before this during Thanos War, I think, when Captain Marvel and Drax the Destroyer had destroyed the Cosmic Cube, and Thanos went along with that old trope. But yeah, he basically says that when Thanos was in the realm of Mistress Death, she sensed that there was an irregularity in the universe, that more people had lived than had died, and this is a cosmic imbalance. So she had took it upon herself to resurrect Thanos, because Thanos is in love with death, the ultimate thirst god. And she basically augmented his power so that he can carry out her goal to correct this cosmic irregularity of there being too much life in the universe. And Silver Surfer tells Doctor Strange that Mistress Death's plan for Thanos was to slaughter half of the life in the entire Marvel universe. So it switches back over to Thanos and Mephisto, and they're still on that barren moon that it wasn't specified when Thanos had destroyed that giant rock. And Thanos is basically talking to Mephisto, and he's telling him, like, throughout this quest for power, acquiring the Infinity Stones, I had always asked myself a lot of questions, and now that I have these stones now, the only question is what should I do now with this almighty power? And as arrogant as Thanos is, he answers himself. And he says that the answer is quite simple, and it's that he can do anything that he wants. And as he says this, he like blows up some crater out into the distance. Man, this dude. And I believe him, And let me remind you guys to pay really close attention to Thanos' like his behavior, his demeanor, how arrogant this man is. You can see, Thanos by himself is pretty powerful. Usually when he comes around, it takes a pretty powerful contingent of the Avengers or any type of super team to stop him. But now that he has the Infinity Stones, like, he's a universal threat. and you guys just need to watch how he goes down that road. Because I think that that'll be the main factor that'll cause Thanos to lose at the end of this story, but we'll get there when we get there. Anyway, though, the one thing that the Silver Surfer tries to make extremely apparent to Doctor Strange is that even though Mistress Death had tasked Thanos with eliminating half of the life in the universe, Thanos had already conjured up his own plans of his own when he had been peering into the Infinity Well in Mistress Death's realm, and that was to, become an unbridled god. And you guys gotta think, now that Thanos has the Infinity Stones, he has complete control and mastery of the soul, mind, power, time, reality, and space. So, in all layman's terms, Thanos is essentially God. Because the question presents itself, what is it that Thanos can't do? And when you think about it, when you have control of all those things of existence, the answer is anything. There's nothing that Thanos cannot do. That's why whenever I talk to my friends about Infinity Gauntlet, I always try to tell them that this is not a story for the superheroes. Man, you guys are going to see, but this is not for them. Let me also say that while Silver Surfer is explaining this to Doctor Strange calls Thanos a nihilist. And let me just say that nihilist is a pretty big word, because I would describe maybe Hitler as a nihilist, who else? Genghis Khan is a nihilist. And yeah, if he's calling Thanos a nihilist, then that should tell you guys how crazy this guy is, how obsessed with death he is. And Thanos is bad news. I think you guys already know that. That's exactly what Thanos is, a space Hitler. He does not discriminate for anyone. So from this point, the story basically picks up with an unspecified voice. I know who this is. I'm going to tell you guys. It's Pip the Troll. He'll become more important in the events following Infinity Gauntlet in Infinity War and Infinity Crusade. But it's basically him chronicling the lives of three, he calls them grade A losers. And their names are Ralph Bunker, Jake Miller, and Bambi Long. And it seems that they've just robbed something. But what we see is that they're in a car, and I guess Jake wasn't paying attention, and what happens is they drive off a cliff doing better than 65, and what we see is that none of them actually survived. And I want you guys to pay close attention to this, because these people, not them themselves, but their bodies will become very important as the story progresses. So the story picks up back at Doctor Strange's Sanctum Sanctorum, where we see Silver Surfer still trying to explain to Doctor Strange what happened when him and Drax had tried to confront Thanos and usurp the power of the Infinity Gauntlet from him. Obviously, they got their butts whooped, and Thanos actually ended up trapping them inside of the Soul Gem. And if you guys don't know, inside of the Soul Gem, there's an actual world called Soul World. And it's here that the Silver Surfer and Drax met a being called Adam Warlock, and he had told them that he was the leader of Soul World, and it was only through him and his magic that they were able to leave Soul World to come back into the main Marvel universe. And it was from that point that Silver Surfer made it his main primary objective to find Doctor Strange and tell him what Thanos had done. And also, Silver Surfer says that he hopes that his warning hasn't come too late, and Doctor Strange agrees with him. Let me just say, Thanos has the 6 stones already. You guys lost. That's just me. Let's keep going. So when we cut back to Thanos and Mephisto at his sanctuary, Jim Starlin put this in, and if you were first reading this from first glance, it would look like something so nonchalant, but it's going to prove to be very important as the story goes on. What we see is that when Thanos gets there, Mistress Death is there waiting for him. Thanos tries to woo her, and he tries to say, I got these 6 Infinity Stones for you, babe. What's the move? And we see that Mistress Death, she curved Thanos in the worst way, just turned her back on this man and say nothing. And he's just looking crummy. And Mephisto just sitting there like the wingman he is, and tells her that he doesn't deserve to be mistreated like that. And Thanos looks at Mistress Death and he says to himself, no, that he is not. And that's gonna play a very big role. Mistress Death gonna rue the day that she curved Thanos. Mistress Death's silly too, man, cause he got all those Infinity Stones, and she just gonna curve that boy he can't just wipe her out of existence. Let me tell you something. What would you do if it was a big old dude and said, I love you, but you ain't love him back? Hey, I ain't gonna lie, man, y'all better play along. Yeah, do something to make him not like you no more. Fart in his face or something, but to just turn your back on this man? Hey, she inconsiderate to the whole universe, so they all gonna die because of her. Ooh. So the story brings us back to Earth, and it brings us back to the side of the deaths of Ralph, Jake, and Bambi. And we see that there's a voiceover from Pip the Troll who's telling us, the readers, that the big guy had waited until the fires had cooled down before he had sent someone in. And it's pretty freaking gruesome now that I'm looking at it. And after he says this, there's a blinding flash of light, and we see that these dead bodies that were once dead, they begin to get up. And we see that, yes, in fact, new souls have inhabited these bodies. And, you know, it's a little bit of humor that Jim Starlin pokes at us. They're saying things like, oh, this body's disgusting, this body's burnt, and all this stuff. And it's not really told to the readers exactly who these people are who are inhabiting these bodies, but it's kind of alluded to us. Like, for instance, the woman is looking in a mirror, and the body that Pip the Troll is inhabiting, he says to her that you're turning green. And the woman replies, and she says, green, how nice. Quick hint for you guys, it is not She-Hulk. She is involved in the story, but it's not her, just in case you guys were thinking that. But yeah. So when we pick back up with Thanos and Mephisto and Thanos' Sanctuary, we see Mephisto thinking to himself about how powerful Thanos is, and coming to the realization that Thanos could actually kill Mephisto with a thought if he really wanted to, because we all know he on some shady stuff. Whether Thanos didn't take the time to just read his mind with the Mind Stone, or either way, it's irrelevant, because Mephisto says that regardless of this, his fragile heart may be his undoing, because we see that Thanos is still trying to woo Mistress Death, telling her that he's sorry for whatever he did to, you know, cause her to scorn him, and that he would want to be her equal and be worthy of her love. And we see her side dude, who should just shut up from the jump, just saying, you're not going to be her equal, you're going to be her superior. And just saying that Mistress Death would be nothing but more than a love slave to Thanos, which he is true, but man, you don't say that to a dude who can change reality to anything that he wants. You don't say that. And he just saying that. Thanos responds and says that his love is worship, and he replies that her love is bondage. And Thanos gets even more angry, says, no, you're wrong, death should be revered, shrines should be built to her. And when he said that, he was like, oh, shrines? And then he saw that little twinkle in his eyes, like, oh, I got something for you, girl. And then Thanos did the ultimate thirst move that will make just make the thirstiest man frown upon him. Look at this. Look what this boy done did. This boy made a giant shrine with, Thanos, my man. Like, this boy Thanos' thirst knows no bounds. Like, don't get me wrong, it's always good to, you know, spoil your lady, but bro, like, she not even give you no play. Yeah, I make jokes about Mistress Death not giving Thanos any play, but I do think that it is really important for you guys to acknowledge this scene, you know, put it in the back of your head so you guys can get a sense of how fixated on death that Thanos is, the lengths that he would go to satisfy her. I mean, he just made her a shrine, so I should tell you guys, I mean, he's a thirst god. We said that numerous times already in this video, but even still, him displaying this amount of power, I think it even more creates an even clearer picture of how things will transpire when Thanos comes into conflict with the Earthbound superheroes, you know, the Avengers, Spider-Man, a few of the X-Men when they try to usurp the Gauntlet from him. And man, I can't wait to get to that part in the story, guys. It's going to be something great. But once again, we see that despite Thanos' efforts, Mistress Death, she curves Thanos. And Mephisto tries to give Thanos the whole women are mysterious in their ways whole conversation. But Thanos rejects it. He goes on this whole tirade, shouting out that no, he is Thanos and Death is with him every second of the day. And with that being said, who would be a better consort for Death than him? And Mephisto basically persuades Thanos and tells him that a proof of depravity is needed, so far-fetched that it will be enough to persuade Mistress Death. And Thanos gets that twinkle in his eye again. He says, so be it. And he does something so terrible. Like, wow. So if you guys have seen any of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, which I'm assuming most of you have if you're here watching this video, you've seen the character Nebula, and she's Thanos' granddaughter in the comic books. And there's this whole backstory about how she might not have been, but I'm not going to get into it. That's another story for another day. But basically Thanos summons her, and he uses the Soul Stone, I'm pretty sure. He puts her on this line of basically where she's dead but not really allowed to die. And he uses this as a tribute to Mistress Death to tell her about the blasphemy of life and the glorious promise of death. And she curved Thanos again, like straight up turned her back on him. And Thanos just like, don't turn your back on me, woman. And the side dude, this was it right here. The side dude just like, he basically said, Mr. Death ain't trying to hear you, bro. And then they just had the standoff, and that was it for him. This was hilarious the first time I read it, because Thanos and this guy, they basically had the whole, what, bro?
confrontation. Like, if this is the real world, I feel like they would have just got into a scrap, but nah, they just looked at each other. Thanos wasn't playing any games. He blew him half to hell. Well, he blew whole to hell. So from this point, we really see Thanos trying to continue his efforts in figuring out what it is that's making Mistress Death reject him. And we see that he comes to the realization he thinks that the reason she's rejected him is because he still hadn't carried out the task that she had given him when he had acquired the Infinity Stones and she brought him back to life. We talked about it earlier. But basically, Thanos tells Mistress Death that a lover must always make do on their promises. And as he says this, he's walking towards the edge of the shrine. And I think you guys know what comes next. Is that iconic moment that I hope they're going to do in Infinity War, which I have no doubt that they're going to do it. But Mephisto's, he's sitting there, he's like, oh man, he's really going to do it. And with one motion, Thanos holds his hand up and he snaps his fingers. And he does exactly what Mistress Death had tasked him to do. Man, I just got chills doing that part. Okay, guys, when we come back in the next video, we're going to finish issue 1, and then we're going to start issue 2 because, you know, that wasn't the end. It got too long. It's my first video. Don't want to drag it out too long. But we're going to start issue 2 from Battle Horse. We're going to pick up with whatever happened when Thanos just snapped his fingers. Man, I can't even talk straight, guys. I'm so excited about this story. Oh, man. If you guys do like the video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And leave any comments in, you know, the comment section. If there's any stories that you guys want to see after I finish Infinity Gauntlet and all this other stuff, I'll definitely try to get those to you guys. But yeah, you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you later. Goodbye.